Hey guys, so Zeri bringing you another video. Now, welcome to an interesting thing that Riot's done here. Obviously, when Riot has made this type of thing, it's always going to create a bit of like a So these are two champions, both Zeri and Yuumi, that, well, I don't know. I don't think people hate Zeri. It's just obviously she's been known and is really hard to balance. And I think most of the League community does, though, hate Yuumi. Why are these two champions being talked about, especially together? It's mainly, I would say, because they are featured in so many patch notes. I would imagine that these two, maybe even Renekton as well, weirdly, but they are potentially the two most featured champions in patch notes, at least this season. And part of it, I think, is because, well, I'll get on to why I think it's happening, because I've not read this article yet. I want to see what Riot's reasonings and their discussion about it, because I've not read it. I don't know what they say. And then I will give my thoughts on why I actually think it's really hard for them to balance the champions. So let me know what I would say in the comments below. What do you think about these two champions? The first thing I will say is I do think Zeri is a redeemable champion. I think they could bring Zeri to a form of balance, but it requires them to do something. And I'll say why or what it is later. Yuumi, I don't. And I know that is, some people might be like, oh, that's just the Yuumi hate. Maybe partially. But I think just by innate Yuumi's design, she is always going to be a problem. So we'll see what Riot say. So I don't think it's a huge article, by the way. So a lot of this video is just going to be discussion about what is said. Welcome to Quick Gameplay Thoughts. We wanted to let you know that QGT's Quick Gameplay Thoughts will be going on hiatus for a while as we focus on preparing for Worlds and the upcoming pre-season. We'll be using this break as an opportunity to reboot the series to focus more on relevant gameplay topics that are important to players. Thanks for reading, and we'll be back even better. I would say that's a shame. I don't imagine, because, you know, if you actually look at this, there's not a lot of text in it. I don't imagine these take too much to do. So I love the communication that Riot does. I think it's never a bad thing. It's only been a good thing, to be honest. So that is a shame that it's going away for a while. Anyway, let's get into it. So today we'd like to share our thoughts on two pretty controversial champions, Zeri and Yuumi. Both of these champions are difficult to balance because of four values that often contradict one another. Perceptions of fairness and counterplay. Champion is exciting to play and has high moments. Performance in elite/pro play, and performance in average play. Zeri has some amazing high moments, whether you're kiting out your opponents to secure a pentakill, or surprising them by coming over a wall with a massive W to secure a double kill. Zeri can be an incredibly fun champion. Every champion needs to have exciting high moments, or else they risk feeling boring to players and don't end up getting playtime. Having said that, high moments often conflict with an opponent's perception of fairness, because flashy and cool moments for one player can often feel frustrating for their opponents. Using Zeri as an example, she has three awesome moments. Infinitely scaling mobility from her R, W poke, and set up large... Oh, setting up... So wait, are the three things? Yeah, so that should be separate. Infinitely scaling mobility from her R, W poke, and setup/large map mobility movements with E. However, when these are combined and optimized, we do not believe they offer her opponents sufficient counterplay opportunities. Of these, her W tends to be stronger for average players, albeit frustrating when it's too powerful, while hyper-optimizing R and map mobility are stronger for elite players. Long-term, reducing her ability to go infinite in teamfights while maintaining her ability to make plays around the map is where we're looking to optimize her. This will take time to explore and implement, but for now we're taking her out of the limelight until we can land on a healthy and sustainable direction. So basically, we might not see her in patch notes. They might leave her in her current state, and she might be crazy. She might be in her current state for a while. Good luck. Ban it if you want to. We'll be back in a month or two when we've kind of worked out what to do. Okay. So we'll read through and then I'll give my thoughts. Looking at Yuumi, she has been very synergetic with Zeri, Twitch, and Severe in the meta, and we've had to nerf her as a result. We wanted to tap down some of her multiplicative team-focused outputs from her E, and have her success be more dependent on taking aggression action, like poking with her Q. Longer term, we think Yuumi's laning phase performance should be more important to her success, reducing her strength on fighters in favor of marksman, and reducing her coordination burden will put Yuumi in a better state long term while retaining the aspects of Yuumi that her players care about. As in, never having to care about movement because they just permanently attach to everything. Hopefully this helps. Well, this is not really said that much, to be honest, but hopefully this helps give some more context to the changes you saw in patch 12.16 for these two champions. While we're getting busy ready for Worlds, we want to reassure you that we will be working on new ways to deliver gameplay Fantasy Zeri and Yuumi players have come to know and love. Okay, well, there's a lot to digest from this, and they've touched on why I think especially Zeri is a problem, but they didn't really fully say it. So, fundamentally, Zeri especially, and I'll get onto Yuumi after, Zeri is more of a problem because, well, not more of a problem, Zeri has her problems because of the ethos that Riot has moved the game towards. What that ethos is every champion should be viable at every single rating. This is something that is fairly new, to be honest, in League of Legends, maybe the last 1 or 2 years. Because years ago, when I guess it was different designers or balancers or whatever, and even the community, I actually genuinely don't know what the community thinks about this, so feel free to let me know what you think. I felt there was a general consensus of it's okay that some champions are low rating, it's okay that some champions are more for low rating, and it's okay that some champions are more for high rating. And if you choose to take that Azir in Iron, then that's up to you. If you choose to take that Master Yi in Master, that's on you. However, Riot has moved in the direction of, let's try to make everything viable in every single rating, no matter what their kit is, no matter if, what's the backlash of that. And that's where you get things like the Master Yi buffs that were so tone deaf, and a lot of players were shouting about it. And then it came out and, had to get obviously nerfed quite a lot because it was crazy. You don't buff a champion like Yi, who already takes over low rating, and then you buff him even stronger to try and make him okay in high rating. Well, one, it's going to be interesting what happens to low rating then, and then you're making a pretty straightforward basic champion that shouldn't really excel in high rating. You're trying to force it to be okay in high rating. And honestly, that's what I think the problem with Zeri is. They touched upon it in their paragraph, that the two fundamental playstyles of Zeri, the W playstyle is arguably more unhealthy, but it's easier for the average player to pull that off. Why? Because that just makes sense, right? You just have to press W and a big laser beam happens and it can one-shot somebody. Pretty easy to do. Anybody can do it, and it would be viable, that playstyle, in all ranks. The harder playstyle, but honestly the more rewarding playstyle, is her intended design of very low damage numbers, but very often, and very high movement speed. That's what she was designed to be. She's that, I'm aiming my AD carries, they don't do a lot of damage, but I'm constantly doing it really fast, and I'm really nippy. Because again, there's not many, there wasn't an AD carry of that exact archetype, and that's the hole that Zeri filled. High mobility, but low actual damage output, but high DPS. And the problem with that is it's hard to pull off, because you'll play Zeri, and if you don't perfectly position and you don't use that movement speed and you don't use your kit very well, a lot of players will go, this champion's useless, this champion does no damage, I can't make Zeri work, and I'm against a Draven that just throws 3 axes to my face and I'm dead. That's the problem, is in crazy high rating and pro play, elite play, whatever they want to call it, that's where Zeri of that play style is incredible, because the players are really good and they make that play style work. They can pull off the movement required to maximize both survivability and their damage output, and that's where Zeri is supposed to be. But because Riot's whole ethos is, if we do that, then someone in silver can't really enjoy Zeri, or at least as much. Or they'll have a negative, that champion's awful, when actually she's really strong. Riot we'll make the W build viable, but then that goes crazy in all ratings. Ultimately, that's the problem. And a champion that Zeri rings true or rings the same is kind of Azir. That Azir was the exact same, that he was incredibly good in elite and pro play, incredibly good, but not great even in like platinum. Azir wasn't great, so much so that the champion's overall win rate that is calculated in platinum and above was 44%, and the champion even got nerfs. That's the point, because the old balance team and the old people that used to do this, they knew the champion was crazy. He just wasn't great in platinum or below. And that's nuts, right? Because platinum's still a pretty good rank. But that's what everybody knew. Everybody knew that. You could watch, you could tune into pro play, or you tune into your favorite streamer that's in challenger, and Azir would be taking over games. And then you look at the overall win rate, it's 44% in plat and above. It was even worse, I think, by the way, in lower ranks. But he was the strongest champion in the game. So honestly, the thing that they need to do, if at all they want to make Zeri good and strong and reliable and not being every single patch note, they need to get over their current ethos of every single champion needs to be viable in every single role. And that doesn't stop you playing that champion. If you're watching this video right now and you're a gold AD carry main, you're like, Bahuz, I like playing Zeri. That's fine. You can still play it. Obviously, they're not locked. It's not like, oh, sorry, to play this champion, you need to be diamond and above. The champions are available to play. What I'm saying when it comes to being viable in ranks is what it's balanced towards. Zeri should be balanced towards her core kit, or core fundamental idea of high mobility, low damage output, but high DPS, which obviously, yeah, is good for elite or pro play. And the not as great players, yeah, they might not be able to pull it off as well, but if they still want to play Zeri, they can. You know, you could be a great Zeri player and you could just climb the ranks with a very strong champion like that. But they need to make that decision. They actively need to. And I don't know if Riot will, because it does seem the current balance team are so invested in trying to get every single champion across every single rank. Let me do know what you think of that in general, because I know I'm on the higher end of the rating spectrum, but I'm fine with some champions being in low rating, some champions being in high rating. And yeah, most of the champions are viable everywhere. Most are, but some aren't. I actually thought that was kind of cool. It's really boring when everything's available in all ranks to me. It's kind of the opposite of Riot probably are expecting. To me, it's boring. I like diversity and like different strategies depending where you are and what server you're on or what rating you're in. But if it's just it's the same strategy, it's the same champions in this everything, I don't know, it just doesn't make sense to me. That it's nice to have those differences. But yeah, let me know. So that's the thing with Zeri, is I do think this champion could be recovered. I will admit her design fundamentally is strong. You know, make no mistake, this is the balance team. So if we scroll down very quick, this is him. That is the design lead of Summoner's Rift team, guiding the team's design direction of game balance. He's game balance. So this isn't the champion design team. Obviously, Riot August, I think, have made some of the craziest champions in the last 3 that he's done. I think what needs to be kind of spoken about partially with the balance team, and I'm sure they have internal talks, the champion team needs to also calm down. Like, again, it's the old quote that I've said many times, the old famous one of when Certainly T was on the champion team. He was famous for saying he doesn't care about balance. It's not his job. I'll make a crazy champion, make it very fun for the individual that's playing it. Good luck, balance team. Try to balance what I do. That's kind of the whole, again, archetype of what Riot does nowadays. Look at every single modern champion within the last year to 2 years. Pretty much, I don't even know if Rel is in that group anymore. She might be older than 2 years. But pretty much all those champions are crazy to a certain extent. All of them. They're absolutely nuts. They're game-changing champions in every single one of their roles. It's mad. And they've got so much more in their kit, even than a champion. You know, when we always talk about old versus new, you know, historically it'd be like, oh, a 5-year-old champion versus a modern champion. Hell no. A 3-year-old champion to a modern champion is a crazy difference now. But that's the thing. The champions have got so much more in their kit than even champions 2 to 3 years ago. I think the champion team needs to calm it down. That's, I think, part of the problem. I will say that is definitely part of the problem with some of these champions that are seemingly hard to balance. A lot of them, let's be honest, are more modern champions. But let's move on to Yuumi, because Yuumi, I said earlier, I think Zeri is definitely redeemable. I think that champion, if they just decide this is what she is, and that's what it looks like they might have done, she is becoming high mobility, low actual damage output, but high DPS in that way. If they've locked that in, that's what they're going to do. That's good. And that's what we need for her to become an overall healthy champion for the game and not be in every single patch note, basically. And that does explain, by the way, why she's not in the patch, I believe, preview for the upcoming patch. This is literally, I think, the first patch she's not going to feature in, because Riot is basically saying we're giving up doing changes every single patch for now until we can come with a absolute change for her, and then that will be it. So, yeah. And then as for Yuumi, this champion is always going to cause frustration. It always is. It's never going to not be a problem for League, for Riot, for the community, anything. Why? She fundamentally isn't good for the game. And I know to some people, if you play Yuumi, you're probably just like, oh, I've been hit by an arrow in the heart. I'm sorry to say, but she's just simply not. You can be a good Yuumi player. That's the thing. You can. And they do exist. But it is so rare that they exist. That's part of the problem. Is a terrible Yuumi player, and absolutely like brand new to basically League of Legends, could climb to a pretty decent rank, admittingly probably in a duo queue situation, but they could climb to a decent rank, we're talking diamond, and be practically a new player to the game by playing Yuumi. That's the point, and that's not an over exaggeration, that's not overblown. In a duo situation, a Yuumi player could get to diamond without practically doing much, and we all know that's true. So that fundamentally is the problem. We've all spoken about Yuumi. I've had conversations with Yuumi on my stream multiple times. And fundamentally what people think is the key problem, and I do too, is the lack of individuality. Is that she's not a champion, she's a buff. So the player playing it can do so much, well, they're doing a lot less than other champions because mobility and movement is such a big part of the game. Positioning is such a big part of the game. And that practically is not in Yuumi's ballpark. She doesn't have to do that if she doesn't want to. Better Yuumi players will. They'll detach, they'll try to get the auto for the shield and all that stuff. But I guarantee right now, all of us who play the game, 80% of Yuumis you come across don't do that. Even when I'm in, Diamond 1 Master on EU West, most Yuumis don't do that. They don't, because you don't have to. A Yuumi, and what Riot is even saying here, admittingly, they might be trying to fix it, but a Yuumi would play lane phase, not really do anything in lane phase, wait until their Kayn or something in the jungle is like level 8, and then Yuumi be like, right, see ya AD carry, I'm off, I'm going to go join Kayn for the rest of the game, or my Rengar for the rest of the game, and then they take over the match. We've all been there, we've all seen it, that's literally what happens. And what Riot's trying to do is take away power from that and put it on seemingly or somehow the AD carry individually. I don't know how they're going to do that, all the time. Because just reminding everybody, Yuumi's been a problem for a while. They nerfed her in the last patch, and then 12 hours later, they buff her. They don't let even 2 weeks, one patch go by. They buff her 12 hours later. I'm not sure what their obsession is with the champion, but they do seem a little bit obsessed with making it want to be OP. When again, even if you made this champion, what you have to understand, even if you made this champion weak, stat-wise, people will still play this champion. They still will, because the players who have committed to Yuumi, I remember a community member, apologies, I can't remember specifically who it was. He said, or they said, they had a friend who was a support main. Yuumi came out, they liked the champion, they started becoming like basically a one trick of Yuumi. They did that for like a year or so, and then anytime they played with that friend and Yuumi was banned, they'd play a normal support, and they literally forgot how to position. They get caught all the time. In lane phase, they take all the harassment, all the poke, and they just die. They get caught. Because fundamentally, Yuumi teaches you don't position. That's not part of your skill, your arsenal of skills of that you're becoming a better player. You could be rising up the ranks as a Yuumi player, but your positioning is not going to get better because you're not doing that. So fundamentally, I do think Yuumi's always going to be a problem. What could they do to make the champion better? Okay, so there's number one, accept that there's always going to be that Yuumi in the game, and that's it, move on, accept it. That's number one. Number two, delete Yuumi. And I think that's just not going to happen. But I know there's a big campaign out there of people that hashtag delete Yuumi. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think Riot will ever officially delete a champion. Number 3, though, to me is something that Riot should truly explore, and that is a mini rework. And what is the mini rework? Honestly, not by much. It would involve a few things, but fundamentally, and this is where the controversial lies, change her W. Don't let her attach to somebody. Make her, you know, like a Taric. Taric latches himself with the gem thing onto another player, and then 2 stuns happen from him and then his teammate. Make Yuumi have some type of latch. Make Yuumi bind to somebody, but not movement-based. The champion is a champion, not a buff. So make the player who's playing that champion have to move themselves. Make them an actual League of Legends champion. That would infinitely, everybody would calm down. Because again, part of the problem with Yuumi is she jumps on somebody, she's giving them stats. And then she's unkillable. And then she's healing. You can't stop her. You can't CC the Yuumi because she's attached to somebody. She's untargetable. That is the most unhealthy thing. You know, make her bind to somebody, whoever she wants in range, and make her still give those stats, but then you can CC a Yuumi. You know, that's the thing. Like, you'd have to change the champion a bit here or there, but I don't think you'd have to change it that much. And ultimately, I think that would be the fix. If you want to play Yuumi, you can still play Yuumi, but you're an actual champion now. And that, I think, might appease... Well, I don't think it's going to officially appease the people... appease. I don't think it's going to make those people really happy, because then suddenly they actually have to position, and they actually have to, like, fully pay attention the whole game. But I think that is the healthiest thing that Riot can do. Because even if they... There's 2 things with Yuumi. She's either the crazy heal bot, or she's then the AP champion that does a lot of poke. She's going to be one of the 2. You know, right now, with her buffs that she got, she's the AP side again, and she heals a lot with that too, but then she actually does pretty decent damage, because a lot of them are now going Ludens again. But if she actually had to lane properly, and she had to focus on her positioning, I think people would be okay with it. That's the thing. It's genuinely the W and the attachment part that I think people dislike so much. So if Riot really wanted to try and calm that champion down, get rid of that. Like, that's what I honestly, and I'm not even saying it in a trying to be a malicious thing to Yuumi, to the health of League of Legends, that would make Yuumi okay. Don't have a latch untargetable thing, or change it that if you stun the target, or you hard CC the target, Yuumi pops off. Something like that. Like, something that doesn't make her just be able to just stay on an enemy champion. Like, well, I'm okay until that champion dies. Cool, good luck. Like, that's the unhealthy side. So either go the extreme of removing her that she can latch on somebody, or that like enemy champion, or a champion who is attached to Yuumi gets CC'd, hard CC'd twice. So you have to, like, use a Leona Q and a Leona stun, 2 forms of CC within 1 second of each other. Bam, Yuumi pops off. Something like that. Like, that's what I would do. That would make it healthy for me. Or healthier. But let me know what you guys think. So for Zeri, I do think the champion is redeemable, but Riot have to just lock in. This is what she is. You know, she might not be very good in the lesser ranks, but this is what she is. If you want to play her there, you can play her any rating you want, but this is what this champion is. This is what she does. And I think that's maybe what they're going to do. And then Yuumi, they've not really said anything, let's be honest. But ultimately, what they have said is, we're not really going to have these champions in patches, even if they become problems. We're not going to have them in patches for the next few at least, until we kind of work out what the hell we can do. That's basically what they've said. And by the way, this situation, for those who are newer to the game, this has happened before. This has happened years ago to 3 champions that they announced in a very similar fashion to this. Azir was one of them. We mentioned him earlier. Ryze and Kalista. Because all 3 of those champions had the exact same problem. Incredibly good in elite and pro tier play, but they have to nerf them so much because of that level, and then they are useless in the rest of the game. So what do you do? How do you balance those champions? It's really hard. Honestly, Renekton is kind of in that situation as well. He's getting another nerf right now, when again, he's not been the best in solo queue because he's been nerfed so much anyway because of pro play. But yeah, it's very interesting. Anyway, if you guys enjoy these discussion videos, as I love them, do throw a like on it, throw a comment, throw a subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.
Call down the reckoning to bring back hope and peace. Restore our glory to live forever. Bring down the dark regime. I know how to unleash eternal power.